Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. Well, believe it or not, packersgames.com is just about finished. Just finding little things to nitpick here and there that are bringing me back to tweaking it, but it's pretty much already to the point where you're going to be able to, first of all, the main home page is going to be this new thing, and then the schedule page is going to be on a secondary page. But I'll be posting some questions out there, and you'll be able to not only vote on it, but wager however many coins you want. The coins, won or lost, are converted into a score. It's separate for a reason. It's not really worth getting into. It's just more fair, I think, correct that way. I've also, I think this is probably the last thing I really need to do. I've set it up where if you go to the schedule page, you can vote on each of the games, put wagers there, etc. So I thought it'd be a fun little activity, especially through the offseason as we get into training camp, preseason, etc. Something for us to do. Just like, DraftFlix, it is a freemium site. You can do it all for free, but there are some upgrade options. There are going to be some premium-only questions. There's email alerts set up. I got all that set up so that when there's a new question, you can have it sent to your email. I don't know how to do cell phone alerts. I'll have to see if that's a thing that I can do. But there we go. So keep an eye on that. It'll be very easy to notice a change when there's a change. But alrighty. I guess we'll start with a little bit of Aaron Rodgers just because it's, ever since it got announced, there's been really no middle ground. Either the NFL better watch out or Rodgers is washed. There's not a whole lot of middle ground. Ian Rappaport elaborated on this. We don't have much by way of details for his contract. However, kind of an interesting note here. He says, more on the Steelers signing quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who said on Pat McAfee that he would play for $10 million, and that does sound like the kind of low number the contract will be. Now, when you listen to what he actually says, he says that that's around where he expects the base salary to be. Now, if it's a one-year contract, you're not going to have a big signing bonus or anything, because that's not really how that works. But a couple things. Number one, Rodgers is not worth a ton of money these days. Number two, he's still worth quite a bit more than $10 million. How much more, I don't know, but if he actually is playing for around $10 million in total, not just, if you turn your head and squint your eyes, then this is going to be a pretty big discount, which, of course, is going to be interpreted two different ways. Number one is, I thought he was a bad guy and was all about the money, blah, 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 and here he is. Number two is, sure, you can take the discount for the Steelers, but not for the freaking Packers. There's always an angle. It doesn't really matter what the news is. There's an angle no matter what. One team they did not give a discount to, in addition to the Packers, was the Jets. Andrew Brandt says the Jets' financial legacy with Aaron Rodgers now released per Spotrac. Cash spent, $75 million. Cap charges, 2025, $14 million. 2026, $35 million. Do you know what we got in that trade? So, we got a pick swap in the first that ended up being Lucas Van Ness. We got a second-round pick that ended up being Luke Musgrave. We got Anders Carlson, who's gone. The conditional pick that could have been a first but didn't end up being a first and stayed a second, we traded down. We traded down from pick 41 and got picks 45, 168, and 190. Do you know who those picks were? Edgerrin Cooper, Jacob Monk, and Evan Williams. So Van Ness, Musgrave, Cooper, Monk, and Williams were the players we got in exchange for the Jets so that they could spend $75 million in cash, $49 million in their cap through, 25 and 26. That's just remaining. Got 2 years out of them. One of them, Aaron Rodgers played 3 plays. The other one, Aaron Rodgers was one of the worst quarterbacks the Jets have had. It's not really true, but it was a horrific season. So, in the end, if you're still debating who won that trade, I don't think there's any helping you. And then the final question, which I don't know that I would bother answering right now. Maybe I would because it's the offseason. I don't know. But since we're playing him, I think it is pertinent. Is Rodgers still a good quarterback? I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's so much nonsense here. One of them is, like I almost did just a second ago, pretending that the Jets' season is directly a reflection of how bad Rodgers is. In other words, they were a 4-win team or some stupid nonsense, so Rodgers is the worst quarterback in football. Clearly not true. The other thing I hate, which is everybody's favorite tactic when a quarterback is not very good, right? Bears fans do this all the time with their quarterbacks, and a bunch of other people did it. Some people might have even done it with Love, I don't know, is to attach their name next to Pat Mahomes and just assume that means you're great. Oh, Pat Mahomes had this, and our guy had this. I wonder what that means. It means Mahomes had a bad season, bro. That's what I was saying before, where I had Mahomes 8th on a list or something. It's like people will go absolutely insane if you say he wasn't number one because he's Pat Mahomes and he has to be number one. It's the same rationale here, where you take Pat Mahomes on a down year and you say, oh, this person's stats are just like Pat Mahomes' stats, so I guess he's just as good as Pat Mahomes. Okay, compare it to Pat Mahomes' best year, or second best year, or third best year. Is it anywhere close? No? Okay, then stop it. You're not going to convince me 3,600 yards, I'm pulling that out of thin air, I'm not saying anyone had that, is a good year just because Pat Mahomes had it. He actually had 46, which is a good year, but it's also why nobody compares to his passing yards. They'll find other things that you can compare to other quarterbacks that are quite good. You know, like, for example, Jordan Love threw for 3,600 yards. I know it's because of the injuries and all that, but I'm just giving you an example. Let's pretend he played for the full year. Oh, Jalen Hurts threw for 3,600 yards too. And I think he won the Super Bowl. Gee, you think he's a good quarterback? Oh, so I guess Jordan didn't have a good year because he threw for 3,600 yards? Oh, yeah, okay. No, I'm sorry, 3,600 is not a big number. It's not. And just because you picked a stat that Jalen Hurts sucks in, and by the way, just because Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl doesn't mean he's the best quarterback in football. 3,600 yards and 23 touchdowns and 6 picks. All of that kind of sucks. I think he maybe is slightly the beneficiary of, I don't know, good offensive system, great offensive line, great wide receivers, the best run game in football. Just throwing it out there. But you look at it and be like, well, Rodgers was 28 I think this is one of the things it actually said, by the way. 28 touchdowns and 11 picks. Mahomes, 31 touchdowns, 13 picks. Nearly identical. Yards per attempt, 6.7, 6.9. Nearly identical. Rodgers had more big-time throws, 4.2%, compared to Pat Mahomes at 3.4%. Lower turnover-worthy play rate, 1.8% compared to 2.5%. He had bigger drop issues, 9.6%. Rodgers really did have a lot of issues with this. You thought Jordan was getting screwed. Holy crap. Compared to Pat Mahomes, just 4.7%. NFL passer rating, Rodgers 90.5. Let's round it to 91. Pat Mahomes 94.5. Let's round it down to 94. 91 to 94, almost identical. Boom. Thought Rodgers was washed. What happened? Look, Rodgers isn't washed. And Rodgers did play for a bad team and a dysfunctional staff and a bad coaching staff and all that stuff. So his ability to bounce back is there. He's absolutely lost some mobility, which is going to hurt him. That's just a reality. We acknowledge that when it comes to Jordan Love and his injury. We should acknowledge that with Aaron Rodgers being 500 years old. But he's still extremely intelligent. He's still got a good arm on him. Probably not as good as it used to be, but I'm sure people will pull up highlights and be like, oh, look at that arm. And it's okay, well, now go find him doing that at 25 years old and tell me it's the same thing. But if we're just being honest about it, Rodgers was decent last year. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He ranked 14th in yards, 10th in touchdowns. His overall PFF grade, he ranked 18th, 14th as far as his passing grade is concerned. His big-time throws, he ranked 18th. Turnover-worthy plays, which has always been something Rodgers has been very good at, tied for 5th. Adjusted completion percentage, Aaron Rodgers 28th. And his passer rating, which was basically Pat Mahomes, so it must be elite, he ranked 21st. So yeah, Rodgers, he had a 78 PFF grade and a 76 passing grade. All that is fine. The problem is there were 29 quarterbacks that had a 70 PFF grade, so being quote-unquote good as a quarterback isn't really anything special. You know how many quarterbacks we're going to face with a 70, 80, or 90 PFF grade? We're worried about the AFC North quarterback by the name of Aaron Rodgers when the top two quarterbacks via PFF were Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. So should we be afraid of Aaron Rodgers? I mean, yeah, just as much as we should be afraid of, Jalen Hurts or Jared Goff or, again, I probably picked two quarterbacks that everybody overrates, but I'm more worried about losing because, number one, losses suck in the NFL a lot, and we have much more difficult opponents than the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if we're not handling the Steelers, that's a problem. And number two, because it's the Packers versus Aaron Rodgers rematch. Of course, you don't want Aaron Rodgers to win that rematch. I'm assuming that's not a controversial take among Packers fans. Sucks for the same reason or similar reasons that you didn't want Brett Favre to win as a Viking. Screw that. Again, Rodgers, I look forward to you retiring and coming back as a Packer and living as a Packer and throwing digs at the Bears forever. But, I mean, I want you to lose in horrifying fashion so long as you're not a Packer, especially if you're playing the Packers. That's just the way it goes. But it's going to be a fun storyline. Obviously, I'll be tracking that throughout training camp, throughout preseason, although he's not going to be in the preseason. Regular season, all that stuff. It's going to be a fun storyline. Looking forward to it. Hopefully he's not injured right away. I don't want him to succeed, but I don't want him blowing out his Achilles or anything. But all right, why don't we take our first break? We'll come back and, I have to make a decision what we're going to talk about. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Couple of things was in the news, and I forgot to mention it, but better late than never. First of all, Aaron Wilson reporting Packers hiring Browns Midwest area scout Dan Zegers per a source, previously Chiefs scouting coordinator, Packers scouting assistant, a homecoming for St. Norbert and De Pere High School graduate. So, very cool. One of those very under the radar things that nobody's really talking about, scouting assistant hires or whatever. But the guy was previously the Chiefs scouting coordinator and is now back with the Green Bay Packers. I mean, that feels like a pretty big deal. A little bit of some details that I was able to dig up here. So starting in 2004 to 2013, Zegers started as an equipment assistant while attending De Pere High School and St. Norbert College. He progressed to a scouting assistant role under GM Ted Thompson, gaining valuable experience in player evaluation. He joined the Chiefs as player personnel assistant and was later promoted to college scouting coordinator. That's 2013 to 2018. During his tenure, he worked under GM John Dorsey, another Packers guy and somebody that I like a lot that apparently everybody hates because I don't know why he can't get a better job. And head coach Andy Reid, contributing to the team's talent acquisition strategies. And then 2018 to 2025, I guess we'll say 2024, Zegers served as personnel coordinator before becoming Midwest area scout in 2020. He played a role in scouting notable players such as cornerback Greg Newsome, linebacker J.O.K., and defensive tackle Mason Graham, who was selected 5th overall in this year's draft. Zegers is respected in NFL circles for his keen eye in identifying talent, especially within the Midwest region. His experience under prominent figures like Ted Thompson and Andy Reid has shaped a scouting philosophy, emphasizing thorough evaluation and strategic planning. His return to Green Bay is seen as a strategic move to bolster the Packers scouting department with a familiar and experienced professional. And then, and even bigger news, although I don't know if it's bigger, but bigger to the fans, Nick Collins and Morgan Burnett are going to be joining the Packers coaching staff. They're joining through the NFL's Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship. The program offers minority coaches hands-on experience during off-season workouts and minicamps, aiming to pave the way for full-time NFL coaching roles. Nick Collins does have a little bit of coaching experience. He coached cornerbacks at Bethune-Cookman. Burnett had experience coaching at the high school level. Packers apparently do have a bit of a history, not only taking on coaches through this program, but helping them to take that next step. In recent years, coaches like Anthony Perkins, Miles White, Corey Harkey, and Jeremiah Colon have all taken those steps. So there is some thought that this isn't just going to be some minor thing, that they'll spend some time here and could end up actually becoming legit coaches throughout the NFL. Don't really know what their role is going to be. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhat like an internship, which means it's going to be a little bit of, go try this and then go over here and, go in those meetings, these meetings, work a little bit with the head coach, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. Obviously, the assumption is you'd like them working with safeties, DBs, but I do think it's meant to be more educational than taking them on specifically as coaches who are just going to, okay, go coach them now. Not that it's going to hurt. Very excited that they're back and with the Green Bay Packers again. In other not news, I've seen this floating around a little bit. The president of the Green Bay Packers, Mark Murphy, has signed an $11.5 million deal with Netflix for a film about the Green Bay Packers. What's coming is not just a documentary. It's a full-throttle tribute to the legendary football empire of the Green Bay Packers, an icon that has defined, and then it's ... I don't know why. I'm pretty sure this originated from Facebook, if I had to guess. It is not true. I've seen it now multiple times, which is why I'm bringing it up. At least if it's true, it's not been reported anywhere other than completely unverified places. Facebook is terrible, by the way. I don't get on there as much anymore. I go on there once in a while, and even the videos, which is pretty much all it's good for, is when I see like the videos and stuff, which is pretty much every platform. You scroll through and they got those, kind of like YouTube or whatever. But even those are annoying because you click on it and it takes you to another section and then it's muted and you got to unmute it. And it's like, why is this so many steps? I know that sounds stupid, but this is way too many steps. I don't want to come over to your video section and then come over here and then turn the volume on, which I don't know why it would be off. It's so clunky and stupid. Just play the video I'm clicking on. I'm interested in it. Do it. Annoy the crap out of me. But every time I get on Facebook, I see the most blatantly fake nonsense about the Packers. And it's like, well, that's everywhere. No. I live on X, all right? I'm on here all the time. I have my deck up here where I've got all the different news things popping up every second. And then I go on the regular X thing, just scrolling, death scrolling, whatever you want to call it. And I don't see anything anywhere near like what's on Facebook. Every time I get on there, it's the most blatantly obvious nonsense about like, oh, the Packers are adding a new piece to their defense, TJ Watt. Or it's been reported that the Packers are trying to get a deal done. It's like, this is not true. What is this nonsense? It just is able to live and thrive over there. I think it's such an insular environment that just nonsense can breed and fester in Facebook more than what you can on like X, which is kind of like just a news platform, in my opinion. Because people that are, tied to news are on here 24/7 just pumping out news. It's where they put news. So if somebody were to just put out something that's completely fake, it'll gain a little bit of traction, but it'll also get refuted immediately by people that are, I've done it before for fun. I long time ago posted something that was completely fake just to see what happened. Gained way more traction than I thought, and then some prominent figure came out and was like, this is a lie. And I was like, yeah, I know, dude. I was screwing around. But it's just weird, the amount of nonsense that can grow over there. And of course you look at it and it's something like this, and it's got, every comment is like, this is great. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. This will be wonderful. The same thing happens on X too, which is annoying. Every comment, there's no skepticism whatsoever from anybody. I guess the skeptics don't comment because they just go look it up like I did and go, that's not true, and then don't comment. But you would think somebody would comment, yeah, this isn't true. Instead, every comment, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. I can't wait. This is going to be so good. But bottom line is, if you saw that, it's not real. All right, just don't. Unless there's some secret insider that got the scoop and nobody else, Rappaport or any of the Packers beat people, nobody's picked up on it yet except for this random guy on Facebook that wrote a post. And then speaking else of something else that I saw that was not correct, I was like, I don't want to address it because he might call in and ask about it and I can talk about it there. And I see that he did. So we're going to take a call and then I can address it.
Good morning, Ryan.
Hey.
Mike Hebring, a.k.a. Packers Superfan.
What's going on?
Hey, Ryan. I just saw the news yesterday, I guess it was. So finally 12 signed with, or is going to sign with the Steelers. Fantastic. And I already see on social media and podcasters getting all worked up about, hyping this game up in Pittsburgh, Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur versus Aaron Rodgers. No, this is not Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur against Aaron Rodgers. This is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Green Bay Packers.
Lost you a little bit there.
Fans know this, but the Green Bay Packers have not won a game in Pittsburgh since 1941. Okay, so I'm not going to get all worked up about the fact that 12 is going to be the quarterback in this game, because it's not going to matter who the quarterback in this game is. Okay, so the Steelers have the rest advantage going into that game. It's a Sunday night primetime game in Pittsburgh. It's the Green Bay Packers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Green Bay Packers do not win football games in Pittsburgh. And I don't care if it's Randolph, the quarterback, Justin Fields, the quarterback, or Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. It isn't going to matter. So I'm not going to get all worked up about it. Anyway, just my thoughts.
So I saw that on social media, and of course right away went and checked it. It's not exactly correct. First of all, the first thing that popped out to me was obviously we don't play in Pittsburgh a ton, although 1941 is a very long time ago, so there must have been a lot of games that took place in that span in Pittsburgh, and there were. And in 1941, the Green Bay Packers won 54-7. However, in 1957, the Packers won 27-10. In 1960, the Packers won 19-13. In 1965, the Packers won 41-9. This is in Pittsburgh. In 1969, the Green Bay Packers won 38-34. And in 1970, the Packers won 20-12. I think that was the last time. Now, to be clear, though, they've only played 6 times since 1970. The Packers in Pittsburgh. 6. In 1980, they lost by 2. 86 was 27-3. In 98 was 27-20. In 2009, the Packers lost by 1 point. In 2017, the Packers lost by 3. And then in 2023, the Packers lost by 4. Now, I generally don't like these historic type of arguments. I mean, you laid out a bunch of reasons why the Steelers have a massive advantage, and they do. They're at home, the rest, the whole thing. And the history, I wouldn't say plays nothing into it, but I don't like when I'm being told to consider the fact that, look at how they lost in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and it's like, what could that possibly have to do with this game coming up? You have to explain to me what that has to do with it, because I don't understand that. If it was like in LA and you're like, well, it's a long trip, okay, fine. I mean, a lot of teams take long trips and they win those games, and the Packers take long trips and they win those games, so that doesn't quite explain it. But you're getting warmer. Pittsburgh is not that far. It's a similar environment. Entirely different coaching staffs and players. I don't believe in the voodoo that the 1986 game where the Steelers won 27-3 has even a percent of 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 a difference here. 0.000 to infinity. So, again, it was 1970, 1941. There were 6 games. The Packers are 0-6 in their last 6 meetings. Only one time was with Matt LaFleur. So, I will grant that it's, the Packers on the road is not great. The rest thing is not great. All of that is not great. I'm not going to say they have zero chance because they are 0-6 with completely different teams against completely different. I don't care about that. I don't like that. It's interesting, but I'm not putting nearly that much weight into it. And then if you just look at, do they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? Well, yeah, the last time they played them prior to that, they beat them 27-17. So it would have to be, again, not only this weird, mythical, magical thing where it's not just the Steelers as a whole, but it's the physical location of Pittsburgh. Nah, I don't. Not doing it for me. But I appreciate the call. It was always interesting to go back and look at some of these stats. Anyways, it is definitely interesting to be 0-6, especially through a period where the Packers have been a very good team, at least for a lot of that, not necessarily through the 80s, but there's, one Brett game in there, and 2 Rodgerses and a Jordan. That's the other thing. You don't have more than 2 losses among the 3 different quarterbacks in Pittsburgh. But you also have never had any of them win a game. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love have never won a game in Pittsburgh. So however you want to twist that, it's fine. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll do some more calls. We do have a new caller, so we'll start with that. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, can you give me another shout-out? Because for your Packernet podcast, because I was with Vince, and you shout-out to us.
Uh-huh.
Vinny and Aiden.
Yeah.
So if you could please shout-out again, please and thank you for your next video. Thank you.
Part 2.
Can you do another Packernet podcast for me and Vinny again? Thank you. Bye.
Well, I'm assuming that's Aiden, and I don't even know if you're listening to the podcast. Very sorry to report I'm not doing much YouTube these days, and I don't really have plans to till I can figure out how to get AI to help me with that, because I just not interested. But I'll for sure give you a shout out on the podcast here, Aiden and Vinny. Vinny, by the way, is my nephew. So I hope this is good enough for you, dude. Because I'm not rocking the tubes much these days. Aside from watching, I watch a lot of YouTube. All right, Nico, what's going on?
Ryan, how the heck are you? This
What's
is
up,
Nico
man?
from Idaho. Just driving around this beautiful, what is this, Wednesday? Third, I don't know. And I had the weather here is too nice. So I like to sit on my balcony and just chill, watch some YouTube videos on my little iPad, while I also look at junk on my phone, because why not do 2 things at once? Hello. But so I was watching some stuff on, the OTAs and the running around in the PJs and stuff. And I know they weren't going on 100%. But I will say this. There was like a 10-minute video on Golden running some routes. And let's just say let's say the 4.29 was a fluke and he's like a 4.35, right? Because there's a lot of dudes in the 4.35s. I gotta say, he looks very smooth. He looks like his footwork is exceptional. He definitely has good hands. He just plucks it out of the sky. And I guess, what's the word? He's like swivels really good. He turns, like he's just very fluid in his motion and turning and cutting. And I know he was really good at that, like that 12-yard, curl post, route, at Texas. And that's literally, you can't even stop that. Because if you can stop on a dime like he can and turn around and be hands up and ready to go, it's almost like it's 100% completion. So, if he's
well, especially if he does have that speed, and we'll see how that works. If he starts sailing past people, then I will happily stand corrected. But if you can threaten with that speed, but also have the ability to kind of break down and come underneath, where you got them in this damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, that is real money right there. Where they're playing off, or if they're not, they're turning and running because they're scared to death, or however that is. That's where you get to be super dangerous.
Not a 4.29 guy, but his feet work very fast. So I don't know. I'm getting more excited watching him, because I expect him to come out and be kind of, we all pump him up, but there's still that chance he comes out there and he only gets 300 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, and maybe doesn't show anything till the end of the year. We get excited for the next year, but I tell you what, man. I think he looks very polished. And we're usually getting the guys that aren't polished and have drop issues, maybe aren't the best route running guys, or if they are, like Wicks, guy can run a route like a ninja, but he's got like little stone hands. So we usually have that to deal with. You know, it took Devontae, 3 or 4 years, 5 years for us to be like, he's amazing. So he could be, I'm just feeling good. And yes, it's totally biased because I am a Packers fan, but I'm just feeling good. So go Pack, go. And I haven't seen nothing on Savion, so who knows what's going to happen there. But I tell you, if just golden sticks, I am happy as a clam. Whatever that means. Peace out.
Does that mean? Is it because they look like they're smiling or something? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know that there's enough there to determine much of anything. I think if you look bad going through that 50% pace, we got some serious problems. But I haven't seen anything negative. You know, I mean, as far as, Savion had that bumbled pass and Wicks had a drop. And I think that is kind of, I'm going to take it as a win right now for Golden, is that coming in, I think the real benefit is that he feels polished. And so far through the little bits, the 2 OTAs that we've been privy to, the takeaway has been that he looks real polished. His route running, his movements, his hands, again, way too early to read into too much of anything, but it's a positive that you come into it saying, okay, supposedly he's like this. How does he look? Like that. Okay, good. Take that as a W for now.
So I was just thinking, too, is there a scenario where we just kind of get rid of Jenkins? Like, I don't know, all the cap, stuff, like if we cut him, we still pay $20 million. In that case, keep him, But I wonder if there's because, we've added some linemen, last year and this year. Obviously, this year they haven't shown much because what's-his-face is, still a rookie. But, we got Morgan last year, and he didn't really do much. But if he can come in and be good, and this new guy can be good, I mean, hey, it's a cutthroat business. Do we need Jenkins? As much as I love him. Even every time I see his name, I want to say Eggleton, but that's fine. It makes him stick in my brain. But, maybe there's a scenario where we just say, yeah, you're good. I think we're good without you. I don't know. What are the, with him, what are the cap things, if we cut him or, well, help me out there. But, yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe there's a thing where we just say, bye, because we maybe don't need him. And that's kind of, they've done that in the past with other centers and stuff. I know he's not a center, but they're trying to make him one. But they let Lindsey go, and there's probably a couple more. So, yeah, I wonder if there's a scenario where we just kind of cut him. And I mean, I'd like to keep him. I wish he would just take a little pay cut, because I know centers don't tend to get paid tons of money, but I think he might be able to play longer if he does that, which I would think that's cool. You always want to I just ran a red light. You always want to lengthen your career as much as you can. So I don't know. What do you think? If we just get rid of him, is there some huge dead cap issue, or are we scot free? Let me know. Peace. Bye. Bye.
I think there's a big disconnect between where the fans are at and where the team is at with Elton Jenkins. I'm getting this impression that Packer fans just feel like Elton is some overrated guy that's whining about money that isn't really deserving of money and needs to just maybe go away because we could do without. The Packers believe Elton Jenkins is an all-pro center. Right now, our backup center is Jacob Monk, who's done absolutely nothing in the NFL, and the odds of him ever touching Elton Jenkins as a football player are exceedingly low. We did get guys, but nobody that's going to play center. Jordan Morgan's not going to play center. Anthony Belton's not going to play center. Rasheed Walker, when he inevitably loses that job, is not going to play center. Maybe Sean Ryan, but he's not very good as of right now. So I see this as a minor dispute that I think makes sense in terms of, if you're going to move me there, that's fine, but I don't want to pay decrease. I'm willing to be a team player, but let's not be freaking ridiculous with this. I get moved from tackle to guard and then from guard to center. So I think they're just going to figure it out, and they're going to pay him, and that's going to be that. And, he's getting up in age, so it's not going to be a 5 years from now thing, but I think they've been desperate to get Elton at center for a long time. I think they're really excited about the potential of actually having the offensive line they've always wanted and just throwing a massive wrench in that by saying, nah, screw it. I just don't think there's really any... I can't get there rationally. They've always wanted Elton at center. They got Belton. They got Morgan. They got Zach Tom. They are, a couple things going their way away from having this just premier dominant offensive line to lead the way. And Elton is a major part of that. Major part of their plans moving forward. So, no, I could be wrong. Really, really, really don't think so. All right, Nico, take us home.
Gosh, my brain is like Tommy Boy's.
Love that movie.
Plus, there's a thing where if let's say he goes somewhere else and gets about the same amount of money, I know there's what they say, like a 15-20% expense. You got to move. You got to pay to move your junk. I don't know if he's got family, wife, and kids. You got to do all that new stuff. So kind of like when when Jones left, he could have taken a little bit less, and it would have been the same because he didn't have to move everything to Minnesota and then also wear that horrible color. So yeah, maybe it might be better if Jenkins just takes a pay cut. I know it's easy for me to say. I'm not the one, making $20 million this year. But it's just so you know, it's a little bit less. But yeah, I think to stretch his career out and stay a Packer. People are stupid. People are getting in their end of their career. Well, not people, but some players. If you just stay in Green Bay, you become a Leroy Butler. Not that, he was also good, but you become a freaking legend, I envision Tucker Kraft doing that. Like, I envision him falling off his roof when he's 90 because he's cleaning off ice on his roof, But I'm like, just stay in Green Bay, take a little bit less, but you get so much more, and you would just, like, what if Greg Jennings would have stayed in Green Bay? That guy would be a freaking legend. Now he's that guy that was kind of a wuss and got mad when Rodgers said, maybe you guys will sign him, which I still think is grade A level trolling and funny. I don't know if Jennings never worked with people, but man, every place I work, all the people you work with, you just dog the crap out of them.
Especially growing up in locker rooms. I can't imagine that's the worst thing he's heard.
Almost to the point of abject humiliation, and it's all for fun. And if you can't handle that, guess what? Snip, you're out. So yeah, I just hope he stays. Just take like $11 million a year, be a really good center, and we're good. And Josh Jacobs will rush for 1,500 yards and get 18 touchdowns. See, look what I just did for you, Eggleton. Anyways, I'm out. I have to run into the worst place on the planet, called Walmart. I hate going in there. But anyways, as long as I don't make it to the website, I'm good. Bye.
You guys still go to Walmart? I get Walmart delivery, man. Look, just real quick on this whole delivery thing. I understand that there's a little bit of a price increase when you get stuff delivered to your house because, you leave a very small tip on top of things and maybe there's a slight increase. How much is your time worth? Like, how much would somebody have to pay you per hour to go do your own grocery shopping? Like if it was a job. If you're sitting at home and somebody was like, hey, by the way, Walmart pays people to do this, obviously, because they deliver. And I don't want to do that either. If it costs $5 to $10 more, and I have to choose between spending, let's say on the low end, an hour between the driving and the shopping and the checking out and all that. I mean, if your time is not worth $5 an hour, I don't think I think too highly of myself, but I'm worth $5 an hour. I can comfortably say that. $10 an hour, whatever the case may be. 15. I don't know. I don't know what the surcharge is on all this stuff, if Walmart even has one. So you might just be working with the tip. When you think about it, it's like you get delivery pizza, right? And it would be way easier and faster to just drive and pick up a pizza. You don't have to do anything. You just drive there, you grab it, and you leave. Why on earth would I drive and pick out all my own crap? By the way, I do save money because you can do so much comparison shopping online because it'll show you like the per ounce prices and all that stuff. And I'm not sitting in Walmart busting out my calculator doing all that stuff for every loaf of bread that's there and all that. I'm not doing that. But online, it's right there. Boom, that's the cheapest. You got it. Here's the sales. Bing, bang, boom. At worst, I'm breaking you. Just start buying your crap online, man. All right? Just do it. As far as the Elton thing, again, I'm so far now removed from it at the moment. I'm trying to think what we're even talking about in terms of specifics, and I don't know how much of the specifics we actually know. But to be clear, I don't know that we're even asking for a pay cut. I don't think this is a thing where the Packers are like, yeah, you're not really worth it to us, so we think you should take a pay cut. And he doesn't want to. This is like the Packers are like, all right, let's get rocking and rolling. You ready, Elton? And he's like, yeah, one thing real quick, though. He's asking for some more security. And that's what they're trying to figure out. It's my understanding. I don't know. Maybe they do want him to take less as a center. I don't know. We'll see if the drama escalates. Things change so much. As of right now, I'm not sounding any kind of alarm. I find this to be a relatively minor thing, probably an annoyance to the Packers, because they weren't really expecting, to have to deal with Elton when we're trying to get other stuff done. We're working with Jair. We got to worry about Zach Tom. We got a whole bunch of stuff to worry about right now, and Elton was not one of them. But they got to figure that out. And again, I don't have any anticipation that there's anything serious here. I think it's just a matter of coming to some kind of an agreement that makes sense for both sides, and how much the Packers, the Packers could sign on the dotted line any minute, at any point, and he'd be back. It really, like all these things, just comes down to how bullheaded does everybody want to be? Are the Packers sitting there saying, we're not changing anything, you better show up? Is Elton making too many demands where the Packers would be willing to do something but not quite what he's asking? How far is everybody willing to take this? Could this possibly push into the season? There's always a scenario where, Elton just goes somewhere else. But it would have to be a pretty drastic, serious kind of a thing. And right now, I don't see it as that. I see it as being annoying. I'm tired of the discontent. I'm tired of hearing about how we go out and get these high-character guys so that we don't have these problems, and yet the problems just seem to keep happening. If that's the case, we might as well go get some low-character frickin' skull crushers and just, deal with the drama anyways. But again, I do understand his point. I'm willing to make the move, but you're asking me essentially to take a demotion, and I don't want to do that. And you can promise me all you want that we're not going to lower your salary, but this is probably, the end of my career here. I want some kind of a security blanket. If you genuinely see me as some major part and you think I'm going to be a huge part of this offensive line, then I don't want just market value center money. You know what I mean? Because you're telling me I'm worth more than that. So let's follow through. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I think my wife said, can you please come up? Hamster passed away, and so I think either I'm in trouble for something or we're doing the hamster thing. You could just always tell. 10 years of marriage, you get a text like that. It's like, uh-oh. Your heart sinks because it's like, what did I do? Oh, yeah, we'd probably have to tell the kids about the hamster. Hopefully that's it. Wish me luck. Either way, it's going to be an uncomfortable situation here. But you guys have a good rest of your day, whatever. Appreciate the calls coming in. We're just about enough. I can see you guys are fighting hard to get Packernet After Dark back. The calls are starting to get there, but we're just a little bit. So just keep them coming, and we'll be able to do both shows. But we're still a little light, so I'm just going to keep doing it this way for now. We'll take a break. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Talk to you later.